Welcome to episode 14. You may not agree with this,
But
I'm Maris Lowery,
and I'm Eric Thomas.
and we welcome you into the podcast. And we have a couple of guests. And you know what, Eric? The producer and director of the podcast, the warden herself, told me that she needed two handsome guys to do this podcast. I thought you already had two handsome guys in you and I. I didn't know she meant two more handsome guys as we welcome in Peyton Thomas and Tony Jones.
Yeah, a good selection of guys, the younger version of myself here on the panel.
And we also have Tony Jones, and we're going to get in a discussion about playoff football with both of them here in just a minute because they both have had football playoff experience. But in the meantime, Eric, we'll start like we always do with high school football, and it's good that we're able to start with high school football playoffs. But before we get into that, we got to let our viewers know that this podcast is brought to you by Massey's Power Sports. Massey's, big fans of the Carolina Panthers, and right here we're holding up the Panthers of the Panther Hall of Honor, and hope you can see that real well. They support the Panthers. I think we got a Panther growling back here. But anyway, here's where you can growl over the great deals they have. They have 0% financing on those side-by-sides. Also, our podcast brought to you in part by Modley's Plumbing and Heating. You can dial them up at 304-253-HELP. You never know when you need a plumber till you need a plumber, and you never know when you need someone to fix your heat till your heat goes bad. Well, Eric, it's a good place to start here with high school football, and we're going to start with the local teams, and we'll start in Class 4A. The Beckley Flying Eagles went on the road, and their season comes to an end as they fall short, losing to Morgantown 35-10.
Yeah, I had a chance to view the game. The Flying Eagles, really competitive first half, ran out of gas in the third quarter, early fourth quarter, couldn't get any points on the board, really controlled the ball in the first half, but the game was played in a total rainstorm, and I know both teams played in it, and I really thought it was going to benefit the Beckley team until I researched Morgantown. They ran the ball just as much as Beckley. I think it was probably maybe 4 passes completed in the whole game.
I think one of the unique things in that, of course, your cousin plays for Beckley, A.J. Thomas, and Morgantown also had a young man on their team by the name of A.J. Thomas.
Yeah, and in the battle of Thomas's, we came out ahead 7-0 on the score because A.J. Thomas, our version of the A.J. Thomas, caught a 80-yard touchdown pass, and it was pretty exciting play. And I really thought they stole the momentum right after that, but he got hit with a costly penalty dancing a little bit. I don't know where he got that from. He did a little dance after the touchdown, but it was good to see him get in the end zone.
And while we're talking about Beckley and the playoffs, that's where we want to bring in Tony Jones and Peyton Thomas here. And Tony, it's hard to believe it's been 30 years ago since you played in a playoff game, and I remember that was your senior year, the fall of '94. You're the class of '95, and I was doing radio work at the time. Yeah. And I remember you guys played Pikeview, beat Pikeview in the opening round. You had a home game on a beautiful Saturday afternoon against South Charleston, and that didn't go too well. You want to kind of, maybe if you can still remember from 30 years ago, elaborate a little bit on your experience of playing in the playoffs for the Flying Eagles.
Well, I have to tell you, thanks for having me on the show. I don't recall a lot. I probably remember a bit more of the South Charleston game versus the Pikeview game, but what I recall is we were completely outmatched, and they had the guy in the middle that played
Mark
for Mark Plants that was just a beast, and they had a running back that was just tough on us all day. I think I suffered a little bit of an injury, but we were just clearly outmatched, and thanks for bringing it back up.
Well, we're talking about 30 years in history's history, but that was your final high school football game, and I'm sure there's a lot of emotions probably that you went through on that day.
Oh, certainly, and 30, fast forwarding 30 years now I still reminisce just a little bit, especially going back and watching some of the kids, is time goes by so fast, and the older you get, I think the faster it goes. So, I kind of live vicariously through you guys watching you on video productions.
Hey, but what's wild about that game? And you played in it, but I can remember it was a 1:30 kick on that Saturday. Ended up being a nice,
beautiful day, like 65, 70 degrees.
So here's what I remember from that game. And this is when Tony and I we started to get to know one another. And I went to actually watch him. I went to the game with Brian Neighbors, who was the coach.
The current coach of the Beckley
girls basketball team. Remember scooping him up and us going to play. And I just remember this Plants kid. Did he win player of the year?
He went on to play at WVU. And
right.
Not only that, if it makes you feel any better, Tony, they went on to beat DuPont and Randy Moses to win the state championship.
So I had a chance to watch them play DuPont, and South Charleston ended up beating
them to win the state
championship.
Right.
So what I do recall is, even though I think it was 35-0, prior to that game, I felt like we had a chance, right? I mean, we were tough, we were gritty, but clearly we were out.
You were the wrecking crew, right?
Yeah, that's what they used to call us, but we got wrecked that day. We got wrecked
Yeah,
that
the home
day.
field advantage, the wrecking
Yeah.
crew, and it didn't work out that day. Mark Plants went on at WVU, and I think he became prosecuting attorney in Kanawha County.
Yeah.
Had some little troubles
Yeah,
that got him replaced.
Yeah,
but
a little off the field
Little off
stuff,
the field
but,
stuff.
Things happen.
but they do. And you know, Tony, the thing I remember, not just that game, but through your high school career, is your dad used to sit right below our radio booth when Bill O'Brien called the Flying Eagle games from back in the day and called your career and knew you then, and now here we are 30 years later and we're still hanging out.
Hanging tight. Yeah, Dad would never really miss a game. He kind of cheered quietly. He couldn't sit with Mom because she was that one that
Yeah, she was the vocal.
you just like, I could actually hear her cheering, right? And I think it was one time, I can't recall what game is, I got hurt, and next thing I look around and she's right there on the sideline.
I know what game it was. Greenboro East.
Yeah, dislocated finger. So yeah,
That finger was
a
pretty
big
tough.
deal.
Well, you know, Tony, what we'll do now, fast forward it 20 years after you played, this young man right here, Peyton Thomas, played in the playoff game, and it was a day game, was on the road at University. Peyton, you want to, I'm sure just being only 10 years, you probably have more fond memories of what Tony can remember maybe from 30 years ago.
Well, just like Tony said, you know, time flies. We were just talking about it before we started recording, and it doesn't even feel like it was 10 years ago. But man, yeah, that was a fun week. You know, being a freshman, I got a little bit of playing time. Wasn't like a key player. You know, just played my role. Got in, blocked when I needed to, and things like that. But you know, just the week of preparation leading up to it. You know, getting to kind of send the senior class off. I know it wasn't the outcome that they wanted, but yeah, man, it was fun. It was a tough loss. You know, I wouldn't say that we felt, you know, like we had a chance just because University was really tough that year. But, you know, we went up there, tried our best, and just wasn't the outcome that we wanted.
Well, let me ask both of you this, and I'll start with you, Tony. Did it seem like any difference in preparing for a postseason game than it did at any time during the regular season?
No, not to me, because I don't know. I mean, pressure is pressure, right? You want to win every game, and maybe this one has a bit more higher stakes because it's the playoffs. But I do recall the week of preparation of the game, and nothing felt different other than it was a little earlier game, right? And I remember the stands were packed.
And for you, Peyton?
I mean, yeah, like Tony said, I think pressure's pressure, but you understand that it means a little bit more where you're playing in the playoffs. It's win or go home. So everybody, you know, I won't say on edge, but everybody understands like, hey, you know, this could be our last game. Let's, you know, prepare as hard as we can and see what happens.
And Eric, unfortunately for you and I, we can't talk about any playoff experiences, can we? But in 1978, I was on a team that was 8-2 and lost 2 games by a total of 2 points and still didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, and me as well. And up until this last crew of Independence players that of course won the state championship. My 3 years at Independence we had the winningest years
collectively, right?
Yeah, collectively. And I can remember my last 2 years. My junior year, we finished 8-2, guys. We lost to Buffalo Wayne. That's Buffalo Wayne.
Right.
We lost to them, and we lost a close game to the Man Hillbillies, whom we beat in the playoffs the year prior, and it knocked us out of the playoffs. And then my senior year, we finished 6-3-1. We lost to we tied Triple A Oak Hill. Played in Hurricane Hugo, if you guys
remember that 1989. Yep.
We tied that game, and we lost. We got out of the playoffs, the 8th spot, by 2 percentage points. And Greenbrier West, the team that got in over, ended up making a run all the way to the state championship game.
That's amazing. From as we go back, turn the calendar back from 30 years ago, 10 years ago. Now, as we move on to the present, 2024, of course, each class of the 4 classes, we started with 16 teams. They've been cut in half now, down to 8. Of course, Martinsburg, the big favorite. How about a 70-point win over Parkersburg, 77-70?
And you're talking about a school rich in history. Parkersburg, you guys had chances to play against Parkersburg. I mean, for them to get outclassed, 70 points in the playoff loss. I mean, that's a statement win. I don't care. Parkersburg has a big school, big team, big players to draw from, and that's just a butt.
And one of the things that kind of struck a chord with me, out of the 32 playoff games, 8 in each class, there were only 3 games that were within 1 score. The majority of these games weren't even close. And even though you have 16 teams, maybe that might suggest, as we have said before, maybe they got too many teams. I don't know. But anyway, you want to make sure everybody gets a good shot to get in. But a lot of these teams, you're just thinking, man, when you get beat that bad. And Martinsburg, no question, is the favorite. If anyone could beat them, I think you would agree Spring Mills might be that team.
Yeah, and I think Spring Mills is, and I think they end up routing.
They won 56-0 in their games. Spring Mills. I got on They beat Hedgesville.
Yeah, and Spring Mills, and that's one thing you have to look at. They lost a close battle during the year against Martinsburg, and I think you had a chance. Did you watch a little bit of it?
I watched
got
a
the highlights?
little bit of it, yeah. Just
But their defense must be really good because they don't give up even a lot of points. I think Martinsburg scored 17.
They won that game 17-12.
I mean,
yes.
You're holding a team to 17 points. Defense travels playoffs, and I think that'll be an interesting matchup.
We're going to talk about AAA, but before we do that, Eric, we need to do what?
You need to like, share, and subscribe at Warden Broadcast Network on YouTube.
And
WBN, baby.
Also, the podcast brought to you in part by Modley's Plumbing and Heating, and you never know when you need plumbing or when you need heating, so you need to call Modley's at 304-253-HELP, and also by Massey Power Sports, and they're huge Carolina Panther fans. They said I need to show them some love, so we're showing them love with the Carolina Panthers. We hear that Panther growling. Panthers almost growled to an upset over Kansas City, which we'll talk about in a later segment, but Massey's, they've got 0% financing on those side-by-sides. As we get into AAA, got to talk about Princeton. They beat Hampshire 63-9. Daniel Jennings, the Penn State signee, scored 6 touchdowns in that game.
And you know he's in the role now. If you guys can remember, I've had a chance to talk to Tony and Peyton, of course, off air, and I said, the Jennings guy is good, and you can see he's going to be physical. He'll be a defensive player. But the player that I don't know if he played.
He did not. Markel Lowe did not play.
And I think that is a big miss. He got hurt in the third quarter of the win against Parkersburg South. They just said it's a lower leg knee injury. And I think he may be done for the season. I don't want to speak out. I've never had a chance to follow up with Rusty Udy, one of our guests previously. But if they don't have him, they don't have it.
Definitely cuts their chances down for sure. No
because
question.
defensively, he controlled everybody talks about his offensive game. Him at linebacker, he raced it against the Independence team, which is a good team. He erased anything, and he was running those running backs. If those stretch plays, took it out.
And speaking of him, of course, for those who don't know, Tony and Peyton both live in Columbus at Ohio State and Penn State. When they come to Columbus, you may see this young man on the field, the defensive side of the ball for Penn State, because I think when he goes to Penn State, if they do redshirt him, he's definitely, his time will come and he's going to get playing time.
Yeah, his body type, this guy, you can see where he's going to be a defensive end.
Yeah.
Fast,
thick,
physical, and he's everything a D1 player.
And we need to talk about our Raleigh County team, and that's Shady in AAA, and they had a tough afternoon last Saturday. They lost to Nitro 41-7, and a brawl broke out.
Yeah, that's one of those things.
Foot brawl.
A foot brawl, football. It was all over the internet. Had a chance to take it in. Wasn't there, so really can't speak on the play. But I actually saw the play that incited the brawl. Wasn't a flag thrown on the play, but it was a body slam. Kid got body slammed, and Shady guys, as they should, didn't take too kindly to it.
Yeah, they responded.
They responded. Protection.
So as we take a look at, Princeton, and I agree with you. I think they'll make it, and I'm not sure, like I said, what Markel Loaf will be able to play. Of course, Fairmont, Spring Valley will play around this week. Will be a tough game. Bridgeport won 65-0, and they get Nitro this coming week.
Yeah, and Nitro's going to be 5 players short.
Right, and it's tough enough to go to Bridgeport to play with your full strength.
So if you got 5 players, so you might want to do the old trick they used to do in Mullins down in Wyoming County. And somebody got ejected, they put the jersey of someone else on. I don't know for that to be
People
true.
in Wyoming County would do that.
You ain't cheating, you ain't
I don't
trying.
know if that's true, but I've heard rumors.
Yeah, I don't think they do that in Raleigh County. But Wyoming County, no, I'm only kidding. All right, now we talk about the AA. Of course, the Independence Patriots, they weren't able to play on Friday, Saturday, and they played on a rare, actually probably the first time ever, played on a Sunday, and they defeated James Monroe 41-23 rather, and they'll play Philip Barber this coming weekend.
Well, I think the guys at Independence got woke up a little bit in that game too, though. James Monroe rose in and was actually ahead, at halftime. And Independence came out and really put it away, I think, in the third quarter. But that game was a close. This is going to be a team. Those two teams will match up over the next couple of years, because we didn't get to call the game, but we did our research, guys. Of the 43 players that James Monroe had on its roster, 30 of them were sophomore. They're sophomore and freshman, 15 each in that class.
To deal with coming.
And the junior class, but on the flip side, Independence only had 12 seniors, but they're heavy in the junior class. So junior, and of course we know what their middle school teams have done the last 2 years. So I feel that those two teams will clash the next couple of years.
And just to add to that, you and I were unavailable to do the game. Bill O'Brien called the game on video production for you and I spoke to Bill before we recorded this. He said Independence turned the ball over 4 times in the first half. It's hard to think you turn the ball over 4 times and still win, but he said they scored on all 5 of their possessions in the second half to pull away.
Yeah, and that's what good teams do, and we've seen that with that's one thing that coaching staff does for Independence. They really do adapt and adjust to however the game is played, and they have a lot of playoff experience. So I look for them to make a run to the state title.
And I say unofficially because Bill wasn't sure, but he said Silas Mullins had close to 300 yards rushing in that game.
Wow.
And, you know,
Silas Nelson.
Silas Nelson.
Yes.
I said Silas Nelson.
Well,
he came in with 20 rushing touchdowns.
Well, the thing is, in the game we did with Princeton, Nelson rushed the ball. He ran the ball
30-some times, right.
37 times.
Yeah.
And I said, well, if he can put up those numbers against a good Princeton defense, it's going to be tough. And they're going to lean on him heavy, I think, in the playoffs.
Bluefield got a win in the snow. They squeaked out a 2-point victory, one of the 3 close games of the first round, the 2018 win. Bluefield's got to go to Frankfort. But the sneaky team, I think, in AA, Wheeling Central, no one's really talking about them.
Yeah.
And look out for Wheeling Central. They're a 5 seed. They got a big win beating Nicholas County.
I think I gave you that nugget.
Well, you may have. You may
We
have.
talked about
Hey, you hear that, Tony? He must.
Hey, listen,
Hey.
breaking news over here.
I know, but Tony, and guys, and you know as well as I do, I think the reason that we do have 4 classes is because of the Wheeling Central
And basketball.
and basketball and stuff, because they are a private school. They get a lot of, up in Ohio County. They get a lot of, right on that border. So they get a lot of players from Ohio. I'm not saying their whole roster, but they can pick and choose a little bit who comes to the school.
So it's like a small college or something? Is that what you're trying to say? Recruiting?
Well,
Everybody
nowadays,
does
with the portal, you can live anywhere and play
Yeah,
anywhere.
play
So it isn't just them. And in single A, Tug Valley, the top seed, they were victorious. They beat Tulsa, West Side. They were in AA. They lost. I'm trying to think any other local team. Meadowbridge, they lost to Pendleton 44-30. Yeah, we didn't mention Oak Hill. They won in 3A, but we're limited time, so really, unless you have anything else you want to add on
No.
the football playoffs, and we can go into depth when we get to the semifinals.
Right.
When you have more time.
Well, I just think the first round win it went chalk like as it usually does, and interesting matchups in the next round.
Before we get to our next segment, we need to do what?
Like, share, and subscribe at Warden Broadcast Network on YouTube, WBN.
And this is brought to you in part by Modely's Plumbing and Heating, 304-253-HELP. You never know when you need a plumber till you need a plumber. You never know when your heat goes out, you get like middle of the night and you're freezing, don't have no heat. Who do you call? It's not Ghostbusters. It's Modely's. And also by Massey Power Sports. And I know, you hunt a little bit, don't you, Tony? You get on that 4x4 and go out and get your deer.
Listen,
right
my
there.
father-in-law in the woods right now. I just had to change out my camo.
All right, now we're going to get into a segment that you guys are really in tune with. Not that you weren't in tune with high school, but not living in West Virginia. You may not know the teams, obviously, like Eric and I know. But living in Columbus, we're going to talk about college football, and we're going to have our selection of 2. Eric and I will select our 12 teams. But before we do that, we want to touch on the game between Ohio State and Indiana. And Peyton, you were actually there, and I told you when we talked on Sunday that Ohio State was teasing the crowd. They got down 7-0. Indiana had a nice drive, and then from after that, it was all Ohio State, and then Indiana gets a touchdown late that makes it look close, but Ohio State dominated that game.
I will say that's the best that I've seen OSU play this year. I think that they're well primed to make a run at a natty here, and I think they'll get it done.
All right, and Tony, of course, I know that you've lived there in Westerville, right outside of Columbus, for quite a long time. How long now?
Almost 25 years.
Almost 25 years. So I guess you're anointed as an Ohio State fan. Even though you have roots still with West Virginia and the Mountaineers and Marshall, you're still somewhat an Ohio State guy. So what do you think about the Buckeyes?
I put a future bet last year on them to win the national championship, and it heartened me to see how dominant they were against Indiana. And I'm not going to say it's going to be a walk in the park, but I would say they'd be the heavy favorite.
Well, when you spend $21 million on NIL, that sure helps.
That's the cost of doing business, right?
That's right. And I don't know if you knew that, but that was the 30th straight time that Ohio State beat Indiana.
No.
Beat them 30 straight times.
The last time that Indiana beat them,
1988.
I was a junior in high school.
Yeah, 1988. Yes.
But I will still say Indiana's a good club.
Yeah.
They were just
You'll
wildly
see.
outmatched, but they're a good club. They still could sneak in. We'll just have to see in the next couple weeks. But they've been positive all year.
Now, quickly got to talk about the game, which is Ohio State, Michigan. Michigan has won the last 3, but Michigan's nowhere near the team that they've had the last 3 years. Ohio State has them at home. I think Ohio State is really going to be geared up and ready for this. Peyton, you'll be there. And that's amazing, Ohio State, Michigan, because all through my time growing up in the late 60s and 70s, that really was the game, and the records didn't matter. I just don't think that Michigan is even nowhere near the class of Ohio State this year.
No, I know the spread opened up at 20.5. I think it's jumped up a little bit to 21 now. But I don't think Michigan will have anything for Ohio State this weekend. I think Ryan Day needs to make a big statement win here as well. You know, he's kind of jawed a bit with Michigan, you know, since he's jumped in as head coach there. So I think he's going to want to hang 100 up on him, as he said a few years ago. And I think that they'll have a good chance to do it.
Well, I think in Ryan Day's tenure, he has, 4 losses?
3 of them to Michigan.
And 3 are to Michigan.
Actually, got 6 losses.
Okay, well,
right, you're right. He's got 6 and 3 to Michigan.
3 to Michigan. I mean, over half his losses. So you can see that if he's able to put the foot to the pedal, it's going to happen.
He is.
Well, here's the one thing, right? With Ohio State, Ryan Day, in this, since he became the coach, this core program and the curtain core group, they've really accomplished everything except for one thing.
Yeah,
they haven't won at all.
Yeah, this could be their year, as
Yeah.
I said, and those of you who don't know, you know, the Michigan is a big game, but they do this clever thing on campus, and Peyton can probably elaborate on it, is they mark all the M's out on campus.
Yes,
all
Michigan
around.
week,
Michigan week, right?
Yeah.
They don't even say Michigan, they call it that team up north, so it'll be an exciting week.
Yes, that should be exciting. Of course, 10 years ago since the last time Ohio State won a national championship. And by the way, next time you're in the stadium, you go up there, climb the flagpole, take that 1970 national championship,
Hey, we'll
sign,
replace it.
take that down because they didn't win it. And that's for another podcast, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Eric, so now it's time to dive in to our top 12. And Eric and I, we don't share it, so I don't know his picks. He doesn't know mine. And as we give them, Tony and Peyton will have you guys weigh in on it. So I'll lead off. And my number 12 pick, of course, you had a lot of upsets this past week. And I got new teams in and other teams out.
Exactly.
So if you're going to bring new teams in, you got to kick somebody out so you can make room for them, right? All right, my number 12 team this week is Tennessee.
Okay, coming in at 12 for me is a newcomer to my poll. It's Arizona State. And I'll have to tell you why I have them there. They're projected maybe to win
The Big 12?
Big 12, but right now I have them coming in at number 12.
And you know what's amazing about this, Tony and Peyton, I don't know if you knew it, but they were projected to finish last in the Big 12, and now it looks like that they might win it.
Oh,
Well, there's a ton of parity in the Big 12 this year, right?
Right.
So.
All right, my number 11 team is those Fighting Hoosiers of Indiana. They fell back, and they come in at number 11.
Hoosiers? I have the Indiana
Eric,
Hoosiers
you and I
at
are right
number
on.
11.
Both got number 11. You know,
Number
that does.
11.
We normally get a lot of the same teams, but maybe not necessarily the same
corridor.
seeding.
Yeah.
Right.
That time we do. All right, my number 10 team is Boise State.
Okay, my number 10 team is SMU, and I put an asterisk by it because the one team that I have at 3 could possibly be my 10. So I have SMU coming in at 10.
Yeah, and if Miami beats Syracuse, the two teams will play, and that'll take
watch
care of
it out.
itself out on the field. All right, my number 9 team will be Georgia.
All right, so I moved Tennessee back in the poll. I think they were the biggest winner this weekend with Alabama going down.
Ole Miss going down.
Ole Miss going down. That put them right back into my poll, and I have them coming in at 9.
My number 8 team is Miami of Florida.
Okay, my number 8 team, the Georgia Bulldogs.
So we're close right there.
Right.
All right, my number 17 team is Penn State.
Right, and my number 7 team is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and I think that's as high as they can go.
I think
And
so.
So I know you probably have them at 6.
I do.
So,
but
because you're a
the
homer.
committee and I don't see eye to eye on that.
There you go.
There you go. Right. The committee and I don't see eye to eye, but I think Notre Dame, after their loss to Northern Illinois, I think that they would take 7 if they could beat Southern
Yeah,
Cal.
so-
They'd definitely be glad that that's where they are considered, because I think a lot of people felt that after that loss that they were done.
They were done, yes. So I have them coming in at 7.
All right. So number 6 for me is the Fighting Irish.
And number 6 for me, Penn State.
So we just flip-flop them there. All right, number 5, the Ohio State University Buckeyes.
Solid team at number 5. So my number 1 team, and then if the loser of the Big
Of the Big
Big
Ten,
Ten championship
it's going to
is
be five. The
regardless.
winner's going to be one. The
That's
loser's
right.
going to be five.
So Ohio State will circle the wagons there
Right.
at 5.
So Ohio State and Oregon will be interchangeable. We'll see how that goes. So my number 4 team will be Arizona State, and I got them there because, like I said, they're 9-2, and they're in a power conference, and that's why I rewarded them with the bye at number 4.
Okay, so we had a big discussion this weekend, and you guys were part of it. And one of the young men that was at our little NFL party, he really swayed me, and I had to do some research. So I'm coming in at number 4 is Boise State, and I have them winning the Mountain West Championship. But here's why they can be at number 4. If you're ranked higher than Arizona, the Big 12,
Big 12 champion.
they came in the AP poll 4 spots ahead of Arizona State. So that would move them into my top 4 based on
that as of now.
They would be the number 4.
Because here's the thing, if Arizona State were to beat Arizona and then beat whomever they play in the Big 12 championship, those 2 wins, quality wins, that
Right.
might push them in front of Boise State,
Correct.
even if Boise State wins out.
Correct. Even if they win out,
Right.
but you know how based on how the Big
Sure.
Big 12 has been, so I do have Boise State coming in at 4.
And
Shout
my
out to
num-
Josh on that one because you swayed me.
My number 3 is SMU, and I know, like I said, you had Miami and SMU. If Miami beats Syracuse, they're going to play for
Correct.
the ACC championship. As you said, Tony, that'll be a washout to see
Right.
who gets in that slot.
So one thing, the weakest number 3, the weakest of my top 4, and I've been saying this for the last 4 weeks, it's Miami. I mean, they haven't won convincingly over anybody. I mean, the score ended up bad this past Saturday, but their defense is shaky. But good news for the ACC. I think now with SMU's ascent, if they both meet in the championship game, I think both of them will still end up in
They
the final.
could
They
get in. I know. Here's another thing too with the ACC, and people hasn't done this. Clemson can still sneak in there,
Yeah, that's
and this is
correct.
how they could get in there. If Syracuse beats Miami, it'll
Clemson's
be Clemson and SMU, and then Clemson would definitely have to win. Clemson
Yeah.
couldn't lose the championship game and get in, but they got to beat South Carolina. Clemson does.
Exactly right. So
And then of course number 2 is Texas, and number 1 Oregon. I'm sure.
yep,
you have the
two
same
Texas and 1 Oregon.
So my matchup would look like this: it would be number 9 Georgia at number 8 Miami.
Mine will be number 9 Tennessee at number 8 Georgia.
And how about this? I know, Peyton, you and I talked yesterday. You said you'd like to see Ohio State get number 1, but you'd love to be able to go to a home playoff game. I have Tennessee going to Columbus in a first-round playoff game.
And I have Arizona State, the Big 12 champion, coming to play in the cold. Wouldn't that be intriguing? A desert squad coming to play.
Yes.
I don't think anyone wants to come into Columbus for a first round playoff.
The
game.
10-7 matchup, I have Boise State, Penn State.
And I have SMU, Notre Dame, 10-7.
And my 11-6, a Battle of Indiana. It would be Indiana from Bloomington coming to South Bend, take on the Irish.
And I have Indiana going to Penn State and playing Penn State.
All right, Tony, first of all, your thoughts of how Eric and I have picked the teams and how we've seeded them.
I think they're virtually the same. It's just kind of flip-flopping.
How the seeding's just a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah, but listen, we still got a few weeks or a couple weeks to go,
Right.
so it could change.
But this is what's good about this, and we kept every sheet, and I took a photo of last week's. Mine almost wrote out exactly
Right.
like they had it. I was like, I told the producer, I said, hey, take a photo of that.
We got to call ESP and then get on here. Back to feed.
Your overall take of what we've talked about here.
I think we're disrespecting the Bucks a little bit there. I don't
would
think
agree.
that. I think Oregon, especially with the Wisconsin game, going in there, they showed that neutral site, not being at home, it'd be a tall task for them. I think to beat the Buckeyes again, especially just winning by 1 at home.
Right, but until they do that,
Exactly.
because they've
Until they
already
do that,
played
they have to
the
put
head.
up
So
one.
since Oregon beat them head
Head
up,
to head,
Yeah.
so head to head.
yeah,
I
head to
have
head.
to.
I don't think there's
But
no
like-
way
but-
right now you can put Ohio State ahead of Oregon.
That's for sure. That's
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
like we said though, that whoever loses that game
just
is
flip.
going to flip
Yeah,
to 5.
yeah. The one thing about it, the whoever wins will be the overall 1 seed. The loser's going to be the 5 seed.
Yep.
Yeah, so based on my projections so think about these second round games that you would have.
Yeah.
I would have the winner of Tennessee, Georgia going playing Oregon,
Mm-hmm.
and wow, that's some great matchups. Notre Dame in my bracket would match up with Texas.
Same, Penn State, Texas, Notre Dame. That's
Wow.
however it moves out.
That would be
Of course, Notre Dame needs to beat Southern Cal before
Yeah,
that's
still-
in reality.
still business to
Other
be
teams still
handled.
have to take care of their own business. So that'll take care of that. We'll be getting ready to get into the NFL. But before that, Eric, we have to do what?
You have to like, share, and subscribe at Warden Broadcast Network on YouTube.
And of course, this podcast, like all of our podcasts, are brought to you by Massey Power Sports. Give a little love for the Carolina Panthers. Where's that Panther? I hear that Panther in the background. You can see the Panthers Hall of Honor.
That sounds like a Wampus cap.
Yeah, they have 0%
bites
financing on those side by sides, and also by Modley's Plumbing and Heating. You can dial Modley's up 304-253-HELP. Now it's time to get into the National Football League, and we have to talk about our barking dogs. And Eric, I'm going to give you a mulligan because you had picked San Francisco last week as your barking dog, but little did you know that they were going to be all banged up and the quarterback couldn't play, and that changed everything. But you did give an extra.
I gave
you did
a bonus
say
one.
that Dallas was going to beat the Washington Commanders, which they did straight up. So I'm going to give you that. So Eric, that makes you 5-6. Now, my barking dog, as we're recording this on Monday afternoon, November the 25th, my barking dog doesn't play till tonight. So we're recording this before my barking dog has a chance to bite.
Yeah.
I have the Chargers
Yeah, the
at home
Chargers.
against the Ravens. So going into next week, do you have your barking dog ready?
Yes, and I'm going to give you 2.
All right, you'll give me 2. I've got
Yeah,
one. I might
yeah,
have
good.
2 as well.
So my main one, I'm taking the Jets, a home dog against
Seattle.
Seahawks.
All right.
And the only reason I'm taking it, the law averages, the Jets are going to have to
They're
put it
due,
together.
right?
They're
Yeah,
due.
they are due.
So I'm taking them.
So you got the Jets, and they are plus 3, I believe.
Yeah.
Correct?
They're plus 2. Well, yeah, when I first got it, it was plus 2. So.
Okay. All right.
And my bonus pick are the Pittsburgh Steelers. Going into Cincinnati, getting 3 points, and they're going to bounce back and get a victory.
It's amazing because the Steelers would be my bonus pick as well. I think they will get a victory. Before I give you my main pick, any thoughts on Eric's 2 picks and my pick on that?
I like the second one more than the first one.
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
I love that Jets pick. I think you
Yeah.
have to pick it though, like you said, law averages.
Yeah, I just think the momentum will definitely be on the Steelers' way. So, it's
All
just
right.
a short trip down the road.
So we're going to see if the Chargers get the win. But for next week, my barking dog is going to be the New Orleans Saints. They are a home underdog to the Rams, getting 3 points. And Philadelphia really, I thought, beat up the Rams, exposed the Rams. And since the Saints fired their coach, they're 2-0. They're playing at home. I like the Saints at home plus 3. But if I said, if I had a bonus pick, I would take the Steelers.
And I like your pick too. The Saints are playing. You know how they got that new coach bump, and they're really playing a lot more free. And that's going to be a tough matchup. But watch out for those Jets, baby. Aaron Rodgers.
Jets. Before we close out the podcast, I do want to talk real quickly about WVU and Marshall. We didn't get a chance to get them in, so I want to wrap it up with them. The Mountaineers got a big win. They're now bowl eligible. Eric, they beat Central Florida. They'll now finish the year on the road at Lubbock against Texas Tech.
Yeah, and this is a team tough matchup. Never played well in Lubbock at Texas Tech, and I still think Neil Brown's fighting for his job. You know, the line comes out 3.5, and I think it's going to be a tough game to win there, though.
Peyton, any take on that?
No, I actually agree. I think Neil's fighting for his job right now still, even though they are bowl eligible. But it's always a tall task to go into Lubbock for the Mountaineers.
And Tony,
Let's
you
go
want to call over
Mountaineers.
Meyer and ask him what he thinks?
No, let's go Mountaineers. Let's go Mountaineers. Finish strong.
All right, then we'll finish up the Marshall Thundering Herd. Got a big win
Oh, big
at
win.
Old Dominion over the weekend, and they'll finish up against James Madison.
And I have to say this: my wife and I, my daughter, we went to the spring game this year.
Of Marshall, yeah.
And when I left, it's hard to get a read on teams' spring game, but I have to eat crow. I got in the car that day and said, I don't see Marshall winning 4 games. I just didn't. They looked terrible at quarterback position. I actually thought the 4th quarterback was the best quarterback, and they've kind of settled in.
Steady now.
Now they steadied the
Yeah.
they steadied the ship there, and I think a loss propelled them to this win. I think the Ohio State first half, the way they played the Buckeyes, they played them tough,
Yeah.
and I think that was one of those things where it propelled them to say, if we can hang with them for a quarter, we should be able to, in the Sun Belt, match up with these teams.
And Marshall, like I said, big game on the road against
Yeah.
James Madison, and
Who's been dominant in this conference, and I think this is a tall task. 8 o'clock on their home field, it'll be tough for Marshall to pull out a win.
And Peyton, you're a Marshall alum, so
I'm
you
a
wanna,
OSU on
even though
the
you got
day.
your Ohio State, that's where your post college is continuing. So what do you think about the Herd going into this last game?
I will say I kind of agree with that a little bit. I think that I didn't really expect them to do as well as they've done this season, but it's been fun to watch them, an exciting, 4th quarter finish, just winning by a touchdown this past week at ODU, and then another big night game here this upcoming Saturday against JMU, and that's a tough place to go and play. So we'll see what the Herd have in store for us on Saturday.
Tony, any thoughts on the Herd?
I'm a homer, so let's go Herd.
All right.
I think the quarterback play has gotten a bit steady now, so let's just hope.
All right. Before we get out here, I got one last question for Peyton and Tony. And Peyton, you think that the Buckeyes are going to the national championship, but if you had to take a team other than Ohio State to win it all, who would it be?
Oof. I think Texas. They've played well this year. I think Quinn Ewers, a real, he's got a lot of experience. I think that they would be another team that I think has a good chance of winning the Natty this year.
And Tony, I'll pose the same question to you.
Absolutely concur. Maybe Oregon, but probably Texas because of the quarterback play.
Well, the team that I would pick, other than my Ohio State pick that I had a while back, Georgia Bulldogs. I still think once they get in, man, they're going to be tough to deal with. If their quarterback can figure out how not to turn the ball over 7 times, I mean, they match up with anybody talent-wise.
And the one thing I think as we wrap this up, I think that once you get in, I think any of the 12 teams, or at least maybe 8 of the 12 teams, have a legit chance maybe to win this thing.
Yeah, and I really do, and I think it's going to make for an exciting college football postseason.
Well, we hope everybody out there has a very happy, safe Thanksgiving, and we appreciate your attendance here. For Eric Thomas, I'm Maris Lowry, Peyton Thomas, Tony Jones. This has been You May Not Agree With Us,
But
and we hope you have a happy Thanksgiving and a great day, everybody.
Cheers.